How are you enjoying the event? After hearing Jean, I'm sure you're wonderful. Jean is great. And after me, you'll listen to Heatha, which is great as well. I'm not even going to try to measure up to them, but I just came here today to talk to you about one of the many success cases that schools have had partnering up with Toefl YSS and Up Language. And it's a success case that I witnessed because it happened at the school that I work at. And I saw it happening and getting better and improving and all the benefits that we were able to reap from it. So that's what I brought here for you guys today, my experience, my hands-on experience. And please, if you have any questions throughout, feel free to ask me. But I'll be here all throughout the event so we could talk later on during the coffee break or even after if you guys want to ask something one-on-one, okay? So, like Eugênio said, my name is Bruna Lorenzi. I work at Escola Barão do Rio Branco, which is located in Blumenau, Santa Catarina. And at the school, I work as a language coordinator and a Toefl YSS consultant for the state of Santa Catarina and for some schools in Rio Grande do Sul. And a little bit about this partnership that we've had for many years. It's, I would consider it to be like a long-term relationship, but we don't have a love-hate relationship, it's just love. So we've been with Up Language and Toefl YSS since 2012, and we've had many consultations and unbelievable support since our first administration. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. So definitely that's a big part of the relationship that schools have once they partner up with Up Language and Toefl YSS. So that's really important to point out because schools need that. I'm a coordinator of school and I need support all the time, you know? So if we can't count on our partners, who can we count on? So that's definitely a big part of this partnership. And Toefl YSS and Up Language advised us and showed us how, since our first administration of the tests, of how to use Toefl as a pedagogical management tool, because we had no idea how to do that. So since the first administration, before actually, they taught us, they advised us, they counseled us on what is the best use of this and how it can benefit our school, our students, our teacher, everybody in our school community. So let's go back to 2012, when it all started. Our first administration of the tests, our first application, was in October of 2012, and we administered simultaneously 400 tests. And this was our first administration. So we had no clue what was gonna happen. We had no idea of even how to organize this. So again, I emphasize the importance of having this partnership and having this support because it was something totally new to us, as it is for many schools. So we needed that, somebody that had been through that and that knew how to organize it and had that experience, that hands-on experience, right? So at that time in 2012, which was the beginning of our relationship, we chose to test grades 6th, 8th, first year of high school, and Barão Idiomas. Barão Idiomas is a language institute. Now it's called Alameda House, so it's evolved. But at the time, it was Barão Idiomas and was a language institute privately owned by Escola Barão. So at that time, only Barão's students could take an extra English class or course or whatever at Barão Idiomas. Okay, so it was just the students from the head school. And would you go back a little bit, please? Yes. So here I really like to emphasize, and Eugênio talked a little bit about this in the beginning of the event, that we chose to test the grades as a whole. And at that time, we didn't really understand why, but later on, it's going to become clearer. So we chose to test all 6th graders, all 8th graders, and so far and so on. We didn't pick out a group of students or like use them as a controlled group, you know? We chose to test the grade as a whole. So that's very important to point out. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so I've been authorized to share our results with you guys, okay? So we have here our first results with our first administration, our first results. So the blue bars are the listening levels for that first administration way back in 2012. Red is language, form, and meaning, and green is reading. So at that time, we used Barão Idiomas as kind of like a baseline because those students had more contact with the English language. They had an extra English course during the week. Our first year of high school in 8th grade and 6th, they had 2 hours of English classes during their week at school, during the middle school. So we used Barão Idiomas because since they have more contact with the English language, they have more fluency, right? So we use that as a baseline to compare and contrast with our other grades. So just by first glance, we already have a clear view of how our students are doing. We can see that their listening levels are up to date with where we want them to be, at the level that we would like them to be at. But we could clearly see, just by looking very quickly at this graph, that language form and meaning and reading weren't quite there. So we analyzed the results further. And these are just some of the many charts and graphs and data and results that Toefl YSS gives you, UpLanguage gives you when you administer the tests. You receive results for the whole test, for the whole group, and by individual students. So we had a lot to analyze. And we took into consideration everyone's performance. And with that, we were able to start using the Toefl YSS tests as a pedagogical management tool. So here, can you just go back one minute? Thank you. Yeah, there you go. So here we could see where our strong points were and where we needed to work on, where our weak points were. So this was very important to us because we could clearly see where we needed to give a little extra attention, a little TLC. All right? So now you can switch. So we started the cycle, our wonderful cycle of using international certification as a pedagogical management tool. So we had the first administration of the tests. We analyzed the results. With the analysis, we were able to diagnose our problem areas, our strong points, everything that we needed to know. And with this diagnosis, we were able to make smart pedagogical decisions. And with every decision that I make, I need to follow up on it, and I need to instruct my teachers, my staff, the student body, the school community as a whole. So let's focus on pedagogical decisions. Which ones did we make? It's okay. No worries. So our first one, as we saw, reading was a skill that wasn't exactly where it needed to be. So that's where we decided to focus our energy on first. So we needed to improve their reading comprehension. And we emphasized this with 6th and 8th grade because, Eugenia, if you go back, one more, that was our weak spot with 8th and 6th grade. So we focused on those age groups for the moment. Yeah. So how did we do this? We reached out to our other partners, SBS, and they helped us to include supplemental related reading materials. And another thing that we did was to start a new project. Schools love projects, right? I love projects. That's not the official name, but just for you to understand what it is, we started an obligated reading project. So they had to read, they had the challenge of reading 2 books per class every year, 6th and 8th grade. And in the beginning, of course, it was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? The students were very anxious with this, the teachers too, because every change kind of hurts us a little bit, right? It's difficult to get used to it. So we implemented this, we stuck with it, and it was very interesting to see how the students reacted after a while, because they started to see that they were capable of doing that. and that they could challenge themselves even more, and that they could do it. They were willing, and they could get to where we pushed them to go. And it's very interesting because the students that started with this project in 6th grade, when they got to 8th grade, they were ready to go. They were like, I got this. I'm gonna beat my last score, and I'm gonna read better books, and I'm gonna better my reading levels. And so we created something here that they were looking forward to continuing. And this project still continues until today. So it's just one of the decisions that we were able to make based on the results and the evidence and all the data that we were provided with, that we still reap the benefits today. So we can see that it was a decision that wasn't good only at that moment. It's something that still brings us positive results today. Our second pedagogical decision was focused on language form and meaning, because as you saw in the graphs, those levels weren't exactly where they needed to be at too. So that was also a problem area. So we provided the students with more contact with the English language. I'm going to get to that in a minute. And we gave them also more opportunities to practice all 4 skills in the classroom. And what really helped us with that is this wonderful resource from ETS. It's called ELC, English Learning Center. Eugenia, could you possibly try to click that link just so I can... I think you just need to exit the presentation so we can see it. In the same system, me as a teacher, I'm able to get reports from my group as a whole. I'm able to get individual reports. I'm able to give feedback to the whole class, individual feedback, and so much more. So later when you get this information, please take a look at this link because it's really wonderful. For teachers, it's amazing. So don't forget to check this out later. And our third pedagogical decision, which was probably the biggest change for us. In our second, the slide before this, I talked about providing the students with more contact. How do I do this? We increased their English academic load. So middle schoolers had an extra hour. So before they had 2, and then 2013, so on, they had 1 more hour, so totalized 3 hours of English classes during the week. And this is something that still goes on until today. So from 2013 until now, middle schoolers at Escola Barão do Rio Branco still have 3 hours of English class every week. So this is something that started back then and is still beneficial today. So this decision was very spot on because it still works today. It didn't even need to be tweaked or, bettered in any way. So this is something that we saw that was definitely a necessity. So to summarize everything that I've said here, what does this partnership give us? What did it give Escola Barão? It taught us to use international certification as a pedagogical management tool. And it's very important here to point out that this only works if we talk about a structured and widespread application. So just like Eugenio said, and like I said in the beginning of my presentation, we tested the group as a whole, all 6th graders, all 8th graders, not just a couple of students, a group of students within that grade. So here, doing this, we're able to get real results, educational indicators, and data. Real evidence, guys, okay? Go ahead, Jenny. So what did we learn? Since our first administration of the tests, we were able to make smarter decisions because our decisions were backed up by science, by real results, by graphs, by charts, by evidence that I could hold and I could study and I could analyze and I could share with my teachers, and that everybody could pitch in and understand and make smarter decisions based on that. Of course, making smarter decisions. I can reduce my costs, which is very important. And I could reduce my costs because I directed our expenses exactly to where they needed to be, exactly where my weak points were. And I'm only able to identify my weak points if I administer a test that gives me these results, gives me this data and this evidence. I also motivated teachers, motivated students, and something that's very important, we received recognition and positive feedback from the parents and from the school community as a whole. And I could talk about this on and on and on and on, but I believe that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So here we have our results, our average results from 2012 until 2019. I didn't include the last couple of years because of the pandemic. We weren't able to administer the tests as we like, so I didn't put those up. But from 2012 until 2019, we can clearly see that we were able to increase and maintain our English level at the school as a whole. Okay, so I hope that this inspires you to think about if this partnership is something that could benefit your school, that could benefit your students, that could benefit your staff and teachers, because it works. And this is just one of the success cases that we've had the pleasure of working with, and it's the one that I brought here because it's the one that I followed throughout the years, okay? So thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, please, you can ask me now, or we can talk a little bit later. I'll be here throughout the event, okay? Thank you so much. Thank you, Thais and Eugênio, for the invitation.